and prophets. And it is so soul-elevating kind of discussion. The Thursday group, we have some selected topics picked from the presentations of our anointed friends of God. And down there in Waterman, we also used the book Adventist Home, and another group used our 28 fundamental beliefs. And of course, all these kinds of exposures have contributed tremendously in my growth experience as a Christian. And one striking experience that I have with the Thursday group when we discussed 2 Thursdays ago about the Eccl chapter 9 and of course, Testimonies Volume 5 by Ellen G. White, chapter 23, that speaks about the seal of God. That discussion quite made me uneasy because Ellen G. White stated that if I have one spot and wrinkle in my character, I will not receive the mark of God. That will exclude me from experiencing that wrath of God after the work of investigative judgment, the work of atonement has been done. And I said to myself, I don't know if I am the only one that is having this kind of dilemma. You know, when I try to look at myself inside, try to examine myself, as we are told in the scripture that we have to examine ourselves whether we are in faith in 2 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 15. So I have discovered so many things that I said to God, am I unqualified to become your son, Lord? But you have a promise in John chapter 1 verse 12 that if I believe and accept you as my God, I am counted as your child. But my character right now is seemingly going in an opposite direction. What is happening to me? So that's a kind of dilemma that, boggles me. Of course, in spite of the fact that the brother Matthew, what is it? Matthew. Okay, I am confused because there's a child living beside our house that his name is Mateo, and they pronounce it as Mateo. So with Brother Matthew here, sometimes I am confused. But anyway, he made some readings in that chapter that leads me to the realization that it is God that is going to help me with my dilemma. Amen. Praise God. But I said to them, as far as God is concerned, I know that He's doing His work. But as far as what I can observe in myself, something is lacking. I need to do something. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing, my brothers and sisters.
Right.
Oh, it's good enough that you are telling me that, because I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And that kind of boggling things that occurred in my mind moved me to focus on the study about God's power to help me. And that leads me, of course, to the well-known chapter of in the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 12, where Paul said to the Philippians that they have to work out their own salvation with fear and trembling, and that makes an additional confusion in my mind, but it was clarified by the next paragraph when it says that it is God that is working within me to do and to will according to His good pleasure. That gives me an encouragement, brothers and sisters. and how I wish I can share this encouragement with you, because you identified yourself with me. We are struggling with our humanness, with our human and carnal nature at this time. But it's nice to note that we know that it is God that is working within us, both to do and to will according to His good pleasure. And not only that, in the book of Malachi chapter 1, I read in verses 1 to 3, I have discovered that God is like a refining fire that will refine my character, so that I can provide with Him, like the sons of Levi, an offering acceptable in His sight. Amen. And another statement that makes me feel good, when Paul made mention of God in Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, that God is able to accomplish what He had started in me. You just check on the verse, okay? Philippians 1:6, or I think it's Philippians 1:6 or Ephesians 1:6. Now, on top of this, when the temple of God was opened in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 19, that was seen by John, and he saw the Ark of the Testament. And as a Seventh-day Adventist, we do believe that the sanctuary on earth before was a pattern, was a reflection of the sanctuary above, a reflection of the pattern being shown to Moses. And we know that the sanctuary was divided into parts, right? There was the outer court, and the temple itself was divided into two parts: the holy part of the testament, the holy part of the tabernacle, which is called the tabernacle of the congregation, and the most holy. And in that most holy place in the earthly sanctuary was the ark placed, and inside the ark was the table of stones, where the Ten Commandments were inscribed by the finger of God. Now, John the Revelator saw this Ark of the Testament in heavenly temple, and it is giving me a kind of an affirmation that the law that I am keeping here in this earth, the law that is written by Moses in the Decalogue, in the Pentateuch, in Exodus, is a right and erroneous transcript of that original law in heaven, enshrined in the Ark of the Testament. And it is telling me that the Sabbath that I am keeping here, which is found on the fourth commandment of the Decalogue, is the Sabbath that is being inscribed in the Decalogue in the heavenly temple. And that lessons, of course, that I have found in the temple of God in heaven is supplemented by another one. That Christ is there presenting His blood before His Father. He is interceding for me right now. Amen. And He is interceding for you right now. Amen. That the one that He made, the promise that He made, that He's going to accomplish the work that He had started in me, He is going to accomplish that. Amen. In His own time. I believe that. You know why I said in His own time? Because in Testimonies, volume 5, I read, and the group read, that faith, perseverance, and all these positive graces that are needed to be reflected by the Christians are not developed overnight.
That's right. That's right.
Not developed overnight.
Right.
It takes time, brothers and sisters. And if you feel that the Lord is prompting you in your heart, in your mind, to do something good which you have not done before. To do something that I have not yet done before. I have to do it right now. If somebody, I know that I have offended, or somebody that has offended me, by all means, we are told in the sermon of Jesus Christ that I have to go to that person to make reconciliation.
That's right.
Regardless of who is at fault.
Right.
I have to go to that individual. And that is permitting Christ to use me in order to deliver peace to that person. Another striking point that I've read in Testimonies, Volume 5, Chapter 23. Not all professed Sabbath keepers, not all that have the light, will receive the mark.
That's right.
Will receive the seal of God. Why? What happened to these Sabbath keepers? What happened to these people that are saying that they have the light? What happened to them? They don't have a corresponding work. So in other words, they have faith. But the faith that they have, the faith that I have, doesn't have life. It is dead faith.
Right. Right.
Professed Sabbath keepers, even minister like me, if I don't have a corresponding work,
That's right.
I will not receive the seal of the living God.
Exactly.
The keeping of the commandments of God is very essential in our Christian experience.
That's right.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13, we are told, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. This is my duty. And people before who studied the doctrine about the sanctuary have found out that the keeping of the commandments, the intercessory work of Jesus Christ in the heavenly sanctuary, are lessons being taught by Revelation chapter 14. And what is Revelation chapter 14? Revelation chapter 14 contains messages with threefold warning. This is not a kind of text that is unfamiliar to us. We read in Revelation chapter 14, this is an announcement of the angel, first angel, fear God, give glory to Him, and worship Him. Fear God, give glory to Him, and worship Him. And those who have responded to this warning, we know there will be those that will respond to the warning. Because in Revelation chapter 14, verse 12, they were presented. Here are they that have the testimony of Jesus, the faith of Jesus, and kept the commandments of God. So the keeping of the commandments of God is the truth that could be found in Revelation chapter 14. Specifically, the fourth commandment. This is the kind of commandment that seems to be obscured during the papal supremacy. Because the Bible was hidden from among the people. They were not permitted to study the Bible. So when Christ started His ministry in the most holy place in the year 1844, as foretold by Daniel chapter 8 verse 14, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, referring to the work of judgment or investigative judgment as being done by the earthly priest here in the sanctuary. So their minds, the minds of the people studying this, We're awakened to the reality that the work of judgment have begun in the year 1844 after calculating the 2,300 days. And they have come to the point of determining that 1844 is the completion of the 2,300 days. But they have just missed one thing. They thought that the coming of the Son of Man to the Ancient of Days, as recorded in Daniel chapter 7, verse 10 and 13, is representing the coming of Christ here on earth. But they have missed the point. Christ went to the Ancient of Days. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 1, Christ went into His temple, not on earth. And that work of judgment have started in 1844. Twofold messages being carried in Revelation chapter 14. In connection with the fourth commandment, we notice in Revelation chapter 7 a declaration that the dreadful fourth beast with 10 horns, and 3 horns were plucked, and 1 horn came out, having a mouth that speak blasphemy against God, and think to change times and laws, which we all believe refers to papacy, because papacy have changed the 7th day as a day of worship to the first day of the week. And keeping the first day of the week is a sign and symbol of allegiance to the one who made the changes. Now, in Revelation chapter 14, the warning was given to those who worship and receive the mark of the beasts. Those who worship and worship the beast and his mark, and likewise worship the image of the beast. As a Seventh-day Adventist, we are not ignorant as to what is the beast, right? Because if we trace back Revelation chapter 13, we will notice that there was 2 beasts presented. A leopard-like beast in Revelation chapter 13. And these leopard-like beasts blasphemed God. And of course, this Revelation chapter 13 is supplemented by Daniel chapter 7, that the blasphemy made by the beast of Revelation chapter 13 is by way of changing the law of God and making himself appear supreme, superior than God. And the image of the beasts, we need to understand this. What is the image of the beast? In Revelation chapter 13, we read, if you have your Bibles with you, I think you can open it. Revelation chapter 13, verses 11. This is Sherry. If you find it, can you please read it for me?
Revelation 11.
Revelation chapter 13,
13,
verse 11.
Okay. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
He spake like a dragon. And this word dragon has a reference to the dragon of Daniel chapter 12, right? The dragon, which is the devil. Verse 9. And of course, this is the primary meaning of symbol of the dragon. Symbol of the devil, the dragon. And this dragon primarily represents the devil. But secondarily, this represents the pagan Rome, the one that ran after Jesus Christ, the one that was after to kill Jesus Christ. And another secondary meaning of the word dragon here, simple dragon, is of course the papacy, the one that was given the power to rule over the children of God for 1,260 days, which is this similar or the same as 42 months, and times and time and the dividing time and times and the dividing of times. This is a similar thing. So the dragon is primarily Satan, and secondarily papal Rome and pagan Rome. So the dragon here is said to be in verse 11, Sister Cherry?
Yes. And the other beast coming up out of the earth, he had two horns.
Two horns.
Like a lamb.
Like a lion, okay?
Yes.
Read some more.
And he spake as a dragon.
As he spake as a dragon. So, lamb, but spake as a dragon. What a contrast. I have some quotations here referring to the dragon, to the lamb in verse 11. This lamb with two horns is a symbol of the United States of America. And his speaking like a dragon is a prophecy that one day this America will exercise the power of the dragon, which is a contradiction to the Constitution established by this nation. A Constitution that recognizes equality of all human beings. A Constitution that provides liberty. A Constitution that provides freedom and pursuit of happiness. So this is quite an opposite to what we have seen right now. But the Bible is telling us that this will happen. That seems to be very impossible. But just like the experience of Captain Naaman, when he was told by the prophet that you have to go to the river Jordan and dip yourself so that you will be cleansed from your leprosy. And at first he opposed, because what is in the river Jordan that can make me clean from my leprosy? We have good rivers in our place, better than the place of Jordan. But in the sense that God said this, he has to obey. And he did. And what happened? He has to dip himself for what? For seven times. And he did, brothers and sisters. And lo and behold, it was fulfilled. He was healed. So in the same manner, it seems to be very impossible that this nation later on will turn out to be like that of a dragon, an agent of persecution, an agent that don't accept tolerance. But it is being prophesied that it will speak like a dragon. We have to understand that how the papacy developed during the past days. Paul have made already a statement before the papacy came into being. He made mention that there will be an apostasy. And after the apostasy, then the man of sin will be revealed. So in other words, the early Christians must have experienced a declension of spirituality. And there will be an apostasy. And after the apostasy, in order for the church to control the conscience of people, he has to use the civil authority and implement his end in order that the people will obey what he wants them to do. And this resulted to what? To persecution. For how many years? 1,260 years persecution of the people of God. So in other words, papacy developed when the early church apostatized from God. Paul, in his letter to Timothy chapter 2, he said that perilous times will come. For the love of many will wax cold, and children will be disobedient to parents, and people will maintain the form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. And that would lead to the development of the so-called image of the beasts. In the great controversy, under the title God's Law Immutable, Ellen G. White stated that the image of the beasts is or will be corresponding to the religious Protestant America that will control the civil power and accomplish its purposes through this civil power. So she's telling us that there will be a unity of the church and state. And this beast with two horns that spoke like a dragon will cause many to worship the beast. Who is this beast? The leopard-like beast of Revelation chapter 13, which is papacy, and the image of the beast. And how can this be done? We know that we show our loyalty to God by obeying His commandments. And that's why this group of people is presented, here are they that have the faith of Jesus Christ and His testimony and keep His commandments. And on the other side, a group of people that doesn't keep the commandments of God. So, the mark of the beast that is being spoken in Revelation chapter 14 is referring to the symbol of the power of the first beast. And the symbol of the power of the first beast is no other than first day keeping. First day keeping. And God's symbol of and our symbol of loyalty to God is the keeping of His seventh day Sabbath. And of course, right now, there is no sign yet being placed on the head of the people. Not until the Sunday observance will be enforced and everybody will understand the claim of the fourth commandment, and that if they will insist in keeping the law of man rather than the law of God, that's the only time that they have received the mark of the beasts. Brothers and sisters, 1844 has been very far away from us now. We are already 2017, few days from now. And my mind is trying to contemplate on the work that is going on right now in heaven. Because this work of investigative judgment will reach until the close of probation. And when the Prince, Jesus Christ, will come out of the most holy place, that's where the time when the probation is closed. And that will be the time when His people will no longer have an intercessor, no longer have a mediator. And that's the time that the church, God's people, is ready, as being spoken by Paul to the Ephesians, that his church will stand before God, a glorious church, without spot and without wrinkle. Now I know and I understand that the work of God in me takes time, and there will come a time that He is going to present me, is going to present you without spot and without wrinkle. That seems to be impossible right now. But I believe that it is God that will be working towards that direction, and He is not going to fail me. As according to St. Paul, I know whom I believe. I know whom I believe. Okay? And He is able to keep what I have committed to Him against that day. That's the consolation that I would like you to cherish, brothers and sisters, this season of the year. That we have a God, we have a high priest that is determined to make changes in us. If you think to do something good that you have not done before, do it now. Because God is going to help you. He is developing such kind of character in us now. Because that kind of character is not developed in just an overnight experience. It takes time. And thus, we know that sanctification, the living a life that is right before God, is a lifetime process. But we have that assurance that God is not going to leave us. So just remember, when you read Revelation chapter 11, verse 19, when the temple of God was opened and the Ark of the Covenant was seen inside the temple of God, remember all the beautiful implications that is attached to this opening of the temple. And God bless us all.